Welcome to everyone, and thank you for coming. So as you know, we are now going to be doing a more focused practice session over this session and the next session. Usually in this Discovering Buddhism program, there is a one-day more intensive practice day. And unfortunately, since we are constrained with getting together, we thought we could do like this. And then I also thought it's actually good because in the week in between our two sessions, you can all delve a bit deeper into the practice, and hopefully it'll be more, more total hours of practice, and you get more experience. So I first wanted just to start in the usual way, and to say that with everything that we do, it's most important that we set a proper motivation, but now especially for our practice session, or we can even think of it as a mini retreat. It's especially important to set a proper motivation. So let's just take a moment and do that now. So please think that the purpose of my life is to benefit all sentient beings. And in order to do that in the most effective way, I must first achieve the state of my highest potential, that of complete enlightenment. And therefore, I'm going to engage in this practice session so that I can actualize the means, the methods to perfect my mind, so I can be able to share those same methods and guide others to do the same thing. Okay. So then the next thing before we get kind of started, just wanted to mention a little bit about retreat, because we should have a kind of mindset that we're going into retreat now. So I think it's very interesting to know, in Tibetan, the word for retreat is sam, right? Sam. And that word sam, it's a similar word to border. Border is sasam, sa being earth or ground. And sam then, right, is the sort of, border of the earth or border of the land. So here now, when we talk about sam as a retreat, what it really means is to, set a boundary or a demarcation, as it were, with our activities. And so normally, when we are on retreat, we go to an isolated retreat place. We take time off of work. We don't bring our phones. We sort of limit our activities to our practice. But even more important than the physical retreat is the sort of mental retreat. So even if we find ourselves in isolated cave in the Himalayas, if our mind is continuously preoccupied with worldly concerns and thoughts of samsara and the 8 worldly concerns and so forth, then actually the physical isolation has done relatively little. So now here, the way that we sort of isolate our minds from samsaric worldly things, then they normally talk about the three, the 3 capable beings, the 3 motivations for practice. And each of those have things that we're trying to set some boundary or set some separation from our minds with those things. So of course, the first is the 8 worldly concerns, right? The thoughts of gain, loss, pleasant sensations, unpleasant sensations, and so forth. So many times during retreat, we can experience hardship from having to, sit long hours, hardship from, not being able to chase after our normal means of coping with the worldly suffering like entertainment and so forth. So we willingly accept those kinds of sufferings, thinking that we are doing this for a larger purpose. So that's the first level of retreat. Then the second level of retreat, we're actually trying to retreat away from or set a boundary between ourselves and samsara. So as we had mentioned, that samsara is the process of uncontrolled rebirth due to our karma and our delusions. And we were saying that the fundamental root delusion of the ignorance grasping onto true existence is the root of samsara. So here now in retreat, although we haven't delved into the mode of ultimate reality too much, just try to maintain this awareness of, maybe things aren't always as they seem. And, from time to time, as we're meditating, we can kind of consider what that means when we say, I am meditating. So who is this I that's meditating? Is it somehow one with or identical to my body or mind? Is it somehow separate from? Anyway, that kind of inquiry we'll be doing actually for a long time, but we can start now. And then thirdly, the maybe the most important type of retreat is to retreat away from the thought preoccupied with just our own happiness, this self-cherishing mind that thinks that I am the most important, more important than all the numberless, countless sentient beings in the whole universe. So here, as much as that comes up, then we need to combat that right when it starts. So what we just did in the beginning, in a brief way with our motivation, should help us do that when we think that, I'm not just doing this for my own happiness, but rather I'm doing this practice session or I'm doing this retreat for the benefit of all sentient beings. And then when those obstacles come, if we can maintain that thought, then it can give us a lot of energy. It can help us endure potential hardship that might arise. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say about retreat. And while I was doing that, I noticed a few other people enter the room. So welcome to you as well. And here's one more. Okay, so then some other more practical things. Usually, before one does a retreat, then one would clean the room where one is going to meditate. And actually, cleaning the room is one of the daily preliminary practices. So if you haven't already, it's okay. Don't get up and vacuum now. But maybe on subsequent days, depending on how your normal surroundings are, then you can just clean and tidy up the place where you're meditating. So our environment does have an effect on our minds. And so when we are meditating in a clean, tidy place, that can help our minds also become clean and tidy. And then also if you want to set out some offerings, water bowls, or then you can also light some incense, put out some flowers, something that makes your meditation place a bit nice to see. Again, having a nice, beautiful things to look at. All right, we're not thinking about ourselves, but as we always mention, when we meditate, we're inviting the Buddhas to come to the space here where we're meditating. And just like we're going to have a house guest, we tidy and make the place nice, then of course we're inviting the Buddha. So we want to put some effort in that. Okay. And then one thing with retreat as well, then we stick with a schedule. So we're going to do these first sessions here today, but then we're going to over the next week as well as your homework. Also, try to do at least one session a day. If you can commit to 2 sessions a day or more, then that's up to you. But at least having one meditation session for the next week would be very, very good. And again, doesn't have to be long. We're doing about 20, 25, 30 minutes per session, but make sure that you do that so you can maintain the continuity and momentum in your practice. Okay, so with those bits of housekeeping out of the way, then let's start with our first meditation session. So get into a comfortable meditation posture. And I think many of you by now, we know the 7-point meditation posture. So we sit cross-legged if we can. Otherwise, sitting on a chair is also fine. Most important thing is to have a straight back, so not slouching over in your seat. And if you're sitting on a chair, then bring the back away from the backrest of the chair. And then we can put our hands in our lap in this Dharani Mudra, like this, the left hand down first, the right hand on top of it, and just gently in your lap there. Leave a bit of space between the elbow and the body. Make sure your shoulders are not rounded so you can roll them up and back, opening up the chest so you can breathe more fully and deeply. And then just slightly tuck your chin into your neck, and you'll feel some elongation in the back here, the back of the neck. Then we have our mouth closed, but our teeth unclenched, and put the tongue on the roof of the mouth behind the upper teeth. And then try to keep the eyes just slightly open to allow light in. And then we take a few moments after we've gotten into the meditation posture, just to scan the body quickly, checking if there's any pockets of tension that we're holding. Particularly in the facial muscles, make sure those muscles are all soft and relaxed. Then going down through the rest of the body at your own pace, all the way down to the toes. Being aware of the body. And then releasing those pockets of tension, wherever they may be. All right, so now we continue with a bit of breathing meditation. So when we say we're meditating on the breath, actually we're meditating on the sensations in the body that manifest as we breathe in and out. So here, wherever is most prevalent for you, whether it be the rising and falling of the abdomen, or maybe the space at the nostril area. You can feel whatever sensations come when we inhale and exhale. So again, just working, observing the natural breath as it is, not trying to have a long breath or a short breath, but just being aware of what our breath is in this moment. When we're trying to focus on the breath and there's other appearances that come to the mind, whether they be external, like sounds, or internal, like different thoughts, then don't follow after them. Don't push away anything that is unpleasant, nor cling on to anything that might be pleasant, but just maintain the sense of the neutral observer. So we'll continue in this way for a few minutes. All right, so we achieved a bit of mental stability. Then we relax our hold on the breath and instead just try to become aware of everything in our field of experience. So there might be sounds, there might be tactile sensations, there might be smells, there might be different thoughts coming up. So whatever arises in the mind, then try not to get caught up in the content of the experience, but rather try to remain in the place of the observer that knows all these experiences. And again, not getting caught up in the content of experience means that we don't have clinging to the pleasant, nor aversion to the unpleasant. But rather just aware, a sort of naked, bare awareness of everything that comes into our minds. When there's not a particular thought or sound, that's okay. We don't have to conjure those up in those cases. Maybe the awareness of the breath and the sensations will be the only thing we're experiencing. That's also okay. So we'll continue in this way for the next part of our session. as we start to get less caught up in the contents of our experience, we can touch a more fundamental level of the mind, this aspect of clear and knowing, which is shared across our various types of consciousnesses. So try to just rest in this common feature of the different types of mind, this clear and knowing aspect. Okay, so now slowly come out of the meditation and bring your awareness back to the room. Okay, I think I got dropped there. But anyway, I came back. So here I am. All right, so, relax, and you can stretch your legs out if you need to. Get a drink of your favorite beverage. Well, non-alcoholic beverage. I'm just going to assume your favorite beverage is non-alcoholic. So you can continue to relax, and I'll just mention a few points about meditation, a bit of troubleshooting, if you will. So one thing that can come up, one question is, especially when we start to have longer meditation sessions, then one wonders, okay, do I have to stay completely still the whole time? Can I move? What if I have to, blow my nose, or, whatever it is? So this type of meditation that we're doing, we are trying to engage in this non-judgmental awareness, where we're aware of what's going on, but we don't have aversion for the unpleasant nor clinging to the pleasant, right? So in that sense, then actually nothing then can be a distraction for meditation. We are just trying to be aware. So even when there's a conceptual thought, then if we're aware that there's now this conceptual thought, then it doesn't disturb our meditation. To understand, if we hear birds outside, right, then there's some birds chirping, but although we're aware of it, it doesn't disturb us, it doesn't bother us, okay? But birds chirping is quite a nice sound, so that's one thing, right? Then what happens if we have pain in the body, or if we have an itch on our face? Okay, so if you can, right, we're aware that there's pain in the knee, pain in the back, or an itch in my face. So we then try to maintain this bare awareness, non-judgmental awareness of that. Okay. Now it could be that if we just watch the pain in the knee, it will go away. But we're not engaging in this non-judgmental awareness of the pain so that it goes away, right? So if it goes away, great, but don't have even the subtle kind of aversion that then uses the non-judgmental awareness to make the pain go away, right? So just sit there and see, observe what happens. Okay. Now, if the pain gets to a degree where it's so difficult, and it's difficult to concentrate on anything else, or if your leg totally falls asleep and it gets unbearable, okay, then it is okay to move and adjust your body position. But even when we do that, we should do it mindfully. So what that means is, rather than just, let's say there's an itch on the face, right? Rather than just, out of nowhere in an uncontrolled way, scratch, to then think, okay, there's an itch in my face, I'm now going to scratch. So even have the attention, the awareness, the right, that we're going to do. Okay, then, okay, I'm going to scratch with my right hand. So now I'm going to lift my right arm, bringing it to my face, Now I'm scratching. Okay, and now I'm going to put my hand back down in my lap. Okay. So it might seem a bit strange, right? But we're trying to have this, this mindfulness, this awareness of everything that's going on. And so that's even one way we can train in it, even when we're adjusting our position or doing something, right? So similarly, with the legs, I just did the face example so you could see it on the camera, right? So that's one thing that can come up. Yeah. Do any of you have questions? By now, you've been meditating for quite some time now.
Well, I've noticed that when I meditate and I'm doing the bare awareness, it's kind of like a little mini session of what I think about over the course of the day. Just kind of watching thoughts go by, and a lot of them tend to be negative. So, and I know that like if you have anger, you should meditate on love. But is there anything that you can say about like counteracting, or if you should be counteracting negative thoughts as they come up, or do you just be aware of them and let them pass?
Yeah. So right now, I think at our level, when we're trying to get mm, better in touch with our own minds, I think it's good just to allow things to arise and watch and observe, and not try to apply direct antidotes right away. Because part of what we're also trying to do in learning how the mind works, then later you can maybe do some reflecting on how these states of anger came up, and notice their evolution. Maybe we get a memory of something that happened um, recently, or maybe a long time ago. Someone did something we don't like, and then we notice the next step. We get irritated. Then we what's the next step? How did that anger evolve? And coming to know these internal mental processes that normally we're a bit unaware of, can be a big plus for us. We get to know how the afflictions work, right? Some of us, it could be, and maybe not when we have short sessions like we do, but when you get into 12 hours meditating a day, sometimes boredom can come up. So that also can be just very educational, right? To see how our minds are, the kind of current state, to diagnose our current situation. Because you see, I mentioned this ehipasiko, right? The see for yourself. So, this first teaching of the Buddha in the Four Noble Truths was the truth of suffering and the truth of cause of suffering, right? So rather than just hearing all these lists that we see in the Lamrim about, the 8 types of suffering, 6 types of suffering, 3 types of suffering, then we get to see, in our experience, I'm experiencing something I don't like, right? Or when we, go into retreat, I'm separating from the things that I do like. I can't watch Netflix anymore, or whatever it is, right? So then we get some sense of suffering in our experience. And then, throughout the day, when we get off our cushions, then even having this skill that we're developing, where although there's anger in the mind, right, we just sit with it, and we don't express it, we don't harm anyone, we don't yell at anyone. So even this can be a practice for our daily life when we go out and we meet people, or we're put into uncomfortable situations or provocative situations. We can then also see, oh, now there's anger in my mind. So just like in my meditation session, I didn't have to yell or curse or throw a tantrum. I just let it arise and pass away in my mind. So too, when someone cuts in front of us in the Starbucks line, then we can also remain calm and, let it arise and pass away. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we have 4 meditations that we're doing in this module. And so those 4, is the continuity of the mind. We have the space-like nature of the mind, right? Space-like clarity of the mind. We have the mind as the knower, right? And then we have the precious human rebirth. So actually, I'm doing meditations 3 and 4 in this session, and we'll do 1 and 2 in the next session. So this next one we're going to do is the meditation on the precious human rebirth. And we did this last week. And we did it in a just kind of brief way, give you a taste of it. And we're going to do in a complete way. But then also over the next week, then there's all these different outlines and contemplations within it. And over the next week, I want you to sort of cycle through them day by day. You don't have to do a full complete one like we're doing today, but then just choose some elements, some aspects of the meditation. And then by next week, you will have sort of gained experience about the various facets of this meditation. Okay? All right. So back to meditation. So again, we start in the usual way, getting into the comfortable meditation posture. One second. I have to reset my meditation timer. Were you able to hear that, right? That little, okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Okay, so again, first, just bringing awareness to the posture. We should already be in somewhat of a relaxed and focused state of mind. So we can do it in a more abbreviated way here. Getting into the posture and then just spending a few minutes, again, focusing on the natural flow of the breath. Again, very effortless. Not trying to have a long breath or a short breath, but just letting the breath itself breathe. Okay, so now we're going to continue with the precious human rebirth meditation. So here we're doing an analytic meditation. So we actively try to contemplate and analyze to arrive at certain conclusions that then we allow our mind to mix with, we allow our mind to sink into. So here, the first one is identifying what it means, this precious human rebirth. And so now there are 18 characteristics of it, 8 freedoms and 10 endowments. So the 8 freedoms are freedom from being born in some various states that would not allow us to practice Dharma as well as we are able to now. So there are 4 non-human states of rebirth. Freedom from being born as a hell being, as a hungry ghost, as an animal, or as a so-called long life god. So if you haven't meditated or studied Lamrim much before, then maybe some of these terms aren't that meaningful for you right now. But if you have, then you can think about the various obstacles that those types of rebirth would have to practice. The hell beings experience such a gross suffering, so much pain. And you can think when you are, very sick, maybe if you've had, some accident or, undergone surgery and trying to recover from that, how difficult it was to meditate or practice. The hungry ghosts experience so much hunger from not being able to find food and water for thousands of years on end. So think when we had to skip a meal, when we've been very hungry or thirsty, how difficult it was to concentrate. Now think about undergoing that for thousands of years. And the animals without command of language, then it'd be impossible to learn about the teachings, learn how to practice, learn how to meditate. And without the intelligence to differentiate right and wrong, then many of them just very unreflectively, instinctively kill and harm other animals without even a second thought. And then these long life gods, well, some of them are so distracted with worldly pleasures, celestial pleasures, that they don't spend any time practicing. They just are enjoying the celestial pleasures. And others, then they are in this state of deep samadhi without any discrimination other than, when they're born, they think I am born. When they die, they think I am now going to die. In the middle, it's as if they're in a deep, deep sleep. So anyway, think of these 4 non-human states. Consider how difficult it were to be if you were born in one of those states. When you come to the conclusion that, it would be so difficult, nearly impossible to practice Dharma if I were born in such a condition, then allow your mind to sink into that conclusion. And now consider the fact that you are free from having been reborn in this life in one of those four non-human states. You're not experiencing those various kinds of suffering, and therefore just recognize what tremendous opportunity and potential we have because we're not born in one of those four states. The mind should feel some real joy and appreciation, thinking about our extremely good fortune, and just allow your mind to sink into that feeling of joy. Now we will consider the four states where even if born a human, then if we had different conditions than what we have now, then would also be very difficult to practice. So those four are, we are now free from being born in the time when the Buddha has not appeared. So of course, when the Buddha hasn't appeared, then the Buddha Dharma would not exist in that world. So then these methods that we're trying to practice, we also wouldn't have access to. The second is, even if the Buddha had appeared, then to be born in a place or a country where there is no Dharma. So you can think, although the Buddha appeared in northern India, then all the people in Europe and Africa, far away from India at that time, didn't have access to the teachings. Then we also have the freedom from being born with defective senses. So being, without the ability to see or listen to the teachings, we couldn't, read the books and commentaries. We wouldn't be able to hear the teachings, or if we were, didn't have the mental faculties to understand and comprehend the teachings, that would also be a great detriment to our ability to practice. And last is the freedom from having wrong views. So here the wrong views are to deny that liberation or enlightenment exists, to deny that there's a relationship between our good actions and happy results in the future. So we had one of these views, not just a healthy skepticism, but absolute, denigration and denial of these things, then our impetus for practicing would be also severely hampered. If we didn't believe in liberation and enlightenment, we wouldn't try to engage in practices that led to them. So now thinking how difficult it would be if we had one of those four conditions, even if we were a human being. Think how difficult it would be to practice. But then now to think we are free from those four states, and therefore those four do not pose threats or challenges to our ability to practice. So similarly, feel that great sense of being fortunate to be in the situation that we find ourselves in. And now we continue by reflecting on the so-called 10 endowments. So some may seem like a bit of repetition from what we already covered, but here we think of it more in the positive way rather than the negative way. So rather than being free from being born not a human, we think that now we have been born as a human. We've been born in a country or a place where the teachings exist. We have a well-functioning body and mind. We haven't committed any of the 5 heinous crimes or the uninterrupted karmas. So basically, this means these are like killing your father or your mother, killing someone who's attained nirvana with a malicious intent, causing injury to the Buddha such that he bleeds, or causing a schism in the Sangha. These basically are very heavy negative karmas, such that if one does engage in them, then it serves as a tremendous obstacle to making progress. It is actually said that if one who commits one of these, it's impossible to attain liberation in that life. And after this life, they will definitely be reborn in a hell realm. So all of us, we haven't done one of those. And we also have faith in the Dharma, have interest in trying to put these teachings into practice. So thinking about those 5 endowments related to ourselves, then seeing how that creates the condition for us to practice so well. And when you reach that conclusion again, allow your mind to sink into it. And then next we have the 5 conditions that relate to the external world. And so these are the fact that we've been born in a place, in a time, in an era where the Buddha has appeared. We've been born in a time when the Buddha has taught, and those teachings still exist and flourish, that there are still practitioners who can impart these teachings and guide us, and that we also, as practitioners, have kind support. So we have access to centers that offer these teachings. There's places we can go on retreat. So all of these external conditions are also so supportive for our practice. So here again, reflect how we all have those, and reflect how having those gives us the ability to practice so well. And then in conclusion to this part of this meditation is to just think that we all have all of the outer and inner conditions to be able to make utmost progress along the path to liberation and enlightenment in this lifetime. And so to just really feel how fortunate that is. What an incredible opportunity we all have. So now the next section of this meditation is to reflect on the usefulness, the benefit of having such a precious human rebirth. So here we think what we can do with it. So with this precious human rebirth that we all have, we can achieve the temporary goal of getting a good rebirth in our next life. So if we practice well, we abandon negative karma, we accumulate good karma, we can get a good rebirth in our next life again. We can even get reborn in a pure land of the Buddha. These pure lands where it is said that the word suffering doesn't even exist. And also in these pure lands, there's Buddhas and Bodhisattvas all over, giving teachings. Then from a more ultimate level, then we can achieve the state of liberation or even complete enlightenment with this very body, with this very birth that we have taken. So we can think of the great practitioners of the past, Milarepa, Gyalwa and Sapa, Nagarjuna, some of the Buddha's own disciples, many of them achieved liberation. So the type of rebirth that we have is exactly like what they had. And then last, to think that, moment by moment, this precious human rebirth is so amazing, because even in a few moments of meditating on bodhicitta, meditating on emptiness, we can collect so much merit, we can make so much progress. It is said that meditating on bodhicitta, it can burn or purify many eons of previously accumulated negative karma. And meditating on emptiness, we can accumulate more merit, greater than having offered the whole universe filled with the 7 kinds of jewels for many, many, many eons. So now the conclusion, think that now that I have this precious human rebirth, I can do so much with it in a short amount of time. If I use it well, I can attain all of my temporary and ultimate goals and aspirations. And when you reach that conclusion, then again, hold your mind in it. And so now we continue with thinking about the difficulty of obtaining such a precious human rebirth. So, although we have it now, it's very, very rare to achieve, very difficult that we'll be able to achieve it again. So here there's 3 things to contemplate. 1, it's rare because the causes to attain this kind of rebirth are difficult to collect. The causes being having practiced very pure morality, having practiced generosity and the other perfections. So in general, to get a good rebirth of any kind, one needs to practice pure morality. And then to have, the adequate material resources to be able to practice, to have companions with whom we practice. These require other karmic conditions, such as practicing generosity, patience, and so forth. And then especially we need to also make pure prayers that this good karma doesn't just ripen as us being, a great and powerful king or president or celebrity, but instead that we meet with the Dharma and have the freedom and interest to practice and put these teachings incorporated into our lives. So next, then, if we just think about the numbers, then even among the various types of sentient beings, the number of human beings is so small in comparison. And then even among human beings, the ones that have the precious human rebirth are even more rare than rare. So it is said that the number of beings that go from a lower rebirth to a lower rebirth or a higher rebirth to a lower rebirth are like the number of dust particles in the whole earth, in the whole world. But those who go from a lower rebirth to a higher rebirth or a higher rebirth to a higher rebirth are like the dust on a fingertip. And then there's other analogies that we can contemplate as well. They liken getting a precious human rebirth to, akin to taking a fistful of peas and throwing them at a wall. How many peas will stick to the wall? Or if we have a needle and we, throw a handful of mustard seeds, how many will wind up on the tip of the needle? Then we also have our very famous analogy of the blind turtle. The blind turtle who surfaces to the ocean, surface of the ocean once every 100 years. And then there is a golden yolk on the surface of the ocean that is blown around. So what is the chance that when the turtle comes up for air, his neck will be in the center of that golden yolk? So it is said that attaining such a precious human rebirth is even more rare than that. So thinking in those various ways, come to the conclusion that this precious human rebirth is so rare, so difficult to get. And then we can conclude with the statement from Shantideva in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara. He says that these freedoms and endowments are so rare, so difficult to find, that if we don't make use of them now, means if we don't practice to the best of our ability, then how will we ever get such an opportunity again? So thinking in that way, then we make the firm determination that I will practice to the best of my ability. I will make best use of the tremendous opportunity afforded to me by the fact that I have attained such a precious human rebirth. And I will use this opportunity in the best way to make the utmost progress along the path to liberation and enlightenment. Okay, so come out of the meditation. So as I mentioned last week, I know that Precious Human Rebirth, there's a lot. So normally you don't do all of that in one session, but you break it up. So even, as I mentioned, even one of those 18 factors, you can choose for one session, right? I want you to go through that over the next week. So maybe you can split it up, maybe with the 4 non-human types of rebirth in one session, then the 4 human, and then the 4 personal endowments and the 4, So I think you all have those 18 characteristics. Those are in your reading, right? So, just cycle through those various contemplations. Okay, so are there any questions at this point? No? Okay. So I did want to mention, maybe I'll ask you, do you feel confident that you're able to do these meditations on your own? Or do you need to listen to the recordings when you do them? You do need the recordings. Okay. So, I recently did the Meditation 101 course, and we have the recordings of those meditations, so I'll try to send those out. And then otherwise, these outlines of the meditation we have in PDF. So that can also be good to use rather, because if it's a recording, you're following the pace of whoever's leading it. And sometimes, it can be helpful to go at your own pace to allow yourself to, focus on the points that are really hitting your mind at that time, right? Rather than being at the whims of whoever's leading it. So we'll also send those out as well. Okay, Mary Ellen, I'll send it to you later. And if there's anything that comes up, then please, we have our notebooks. And if there's questions that come up about the practice, it's good to, jot those down so that you can get those answers next time we meet. So until then, wish you all the best. And let's just do a brief dedication that, a few things. So we'll dedicate, like we did at the beginning, our motivation was that we can quickly attain the state of our highest potential, that of full enlightenment, so we can lead all others to that enlightened state as well, okay? But also now here, since we've meditated on the precious human rebirth, it also can be good to dedicate that all the sentient beings as quickly as possible. So if they don't have the precious human rebirth in this life, in their very next life, may they attain such a rebirth, right? And those who do have the precious human rebirth, until they are enlightened, may they have an unbroken continuity of such rebirths so they can attain enlightenment as quickly as possible. Okay, so merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Good session.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, Venerable Namjung. Thank you, Mary Ellen.
Thank you.